In this video, we're going to look at congruent polygons, and in particular, we're going to zone into congruent triangles. So, what exactly is a congruent figure or a pair of congruent figures? Well, figures are congruent if they have the exact same size and same shape. They can have a different orientation, but the size and shape have to be the same. So, for example, if I have one figure that looks like this, and I have another figure that looks like this, well, if each side has a corresponding congruent side, so equal in measure, then most likely, 1, 2, 3, 4, then most likely it is congruent. In addition to having corresponding congruent sides, we have to as well have corresponding congruent angles. So we have to have angles that are equal in measure as well. So that's what my congruent figure looks like. Equal sides and equal angles. So congruent sides, congruent angles. Now, what if I have something that looks the same but is smaller? Then it is not congruent, because not only does the angles have to be the same, the measures have to be the same as well. So that's a quadrilateral that we were looking at, but now we're going to focus in on a triangle. Okay, so here we have two triangles, and I'm going to make the claim that two triangles are congruent to each other. But in order for us to be sure that they are congruent, we have to check if each side of each triangle has a corresponding congruent side, and same for angles. So let's check the angles first. So we have here angle A, and it is in fact congruent to angle D. So we are all set with angle A and angle D. And we have here angle B, which is corresponding and congruent to angle E. So we can put that down here, B and E. Oops. Let's see here. B and E. Okay, and then we have angle C, which is in fact congruent to angle F. So we can put that down. Angle C is congruent to angle F. Alright, so it almost looks like we have a corresponding triangle, a congruent triangle, but we can't be sure until we check the sides. Alright, so let's go ahead and check the sides. And we have here that AB is actually congruent to DE. We know from the single hash mark here. So AB segment is congruent to DE, segment DE. And we can keep going. BC and EF appear to be congruent according to our double hash mark, congruent. So we can put that down. So BC is congruent to EF. And AC and DF are congruent to each other. So AC and DF are also congruent to each other. Alright, so it looks like we have three pairs of corresponding congruent angles and three pairs of corresponding congruent sides, which means our triangle is in fact congruent. So from that, we can actually make a statement called our congruence statement. And our congruence statement looks like this. Oh, there we go. So our congruence statement says that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Now here's something that's super important when you're making your congruent statement. It is vital that we list it in the order of correspondence. So A is corresponding to D, B is corresponding to E, and C is corresponding to F. And so I had to write both of these in that order to tell whoever's looking at my congruent statement what exactly corresponds to what. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at an example that we could possibly get. So here we have a congruent statement that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DFE, which means that B and F are our corresponding angles here, B and F, according to our congruent statement. All right, so that means that these two triangles are congruent and the orientation of the triangles are actually what we expect, ABC, DFE. So that means that the angles are equal to the angles, the measure of the angles are equal to the measure of the angles, the measure of the sides are also equal to the measure of the sides. So in order to figure out what y is, well, we know angle B is corresponding to angle F, which means that 8y minus 5 is equal to 99. So we can go ahead and we can solve for y. So we can add 5 to both sides, and we get that 8y is equal to 104. Now we can go ahead and divide both sides by 8, and we get that y is equal to 13. Alright, once we know y, that will help us to find x, as well as the fact that we know that side BC and side FE are congruent to each other. So we can use that fact to help us. 2x plus y is actually 38.4 because of that congruence. Now we know that y is 13 because we just found it, and that is equal to 38.4. We can go ahead and subtract 13 from both sides, and we get that 2x is equal to 25.4, and by dividing both sides by 2, we get that x is equal to 12.7. Alright, so that's it for now.